Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Girl Boss Method podcast, hosted by myself, Richu Bra. Now, today we've got a special guest. Her name is Jodie, and her Instagram handle is Jodie and B Fitness. Jodie is a nutritionist herself, and Jodie and I actually did an Instagram live recently where we were discussing nutrition fads and dieting groups. It was really, really good. So thank you for those of you that had joined us. We've had some questions come through as well. As you know, with Instagram, we can't spend forever on there. And it's just always easier and nicer to be able to share the podcast as another option for you guys to connect with us. So without further ado, hi, Jodie. Welcome. Please let everyone know a little about you, please.
Oh, well, thank you for having me to begin with. Yeah, so I'm Jodie. I'm an online nutrition coach helping women who have experienced yo-yo dieting and fad diets in the past. So I'm all about helping them achieve their goals while still enjoying yummy food. So I really like making up recipes kind of on the spot and adapting them to suit what my clients enjoy, really. So that's just a little bit about what I do, really.
That's amazing. That's so exciting. And actually, it's interesting. One of my clients, she mentioned you yesterday. She'd
Oh,
watched,
really?
yeah, she'd watched the live, and she was like, "Wow, Jodie's got some really cool recipes." So that was really good. Me on the flip side, I'm terrible at creating like recipes from scratch, and actually even just doing lots of cooking or baking full stop. I always used to bake around like Christmas. That, I don't know why, that would just always be a thing. Oh, I'm going to make some muffins or cookies or something. But other than that, I'm a bit more of a hacker, and like I like things that can just be done very, very quickly without minimal effort. So I mean, Jodie, is that something that you're into? Are you quite dish bash? But I mean, do you have a family? Do you live with others?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird situation at the minute, but my partner and I and our dog, we've actually moved in with my sister just for a few months whilst we find a place of our own because we decided we wanted to be closer to family. So it was all very, very quick.
Wow.
So it's quite a full house. So with there are four adults. My sister's got a baby, so I also live with my 18-month-old niece and three dogs. So it's like when I'm cooking and things like that, I kind of got to check in with everybody, make sure that the kitchen's free. But I don't spend forever in there if I'm honest. Like the whole point is, I mean, a little longer when I'm experimenting with recipes, but my whole what I try and do really is to create recipes that are cheap and quick to do so that do you know what I mean? So it's suitable for people who are busy and just want to make something quick that's tasty and high in protein. So yeah, putting them together doesn't really take too long.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, I guess yeah, that's just interesting to learn how you are sharing a kitchen with everyone. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing they also get to enjoy your treats. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Uh, for me, it's rather lonely. It's just me and my partner at home, and we pretty much have very opposite schedules. So
Mm,
we don't really have evenings. Quite often, we don't really get evenings together.
mm.
And even mornings, I'm up at the sort of crack of dawn, and he's got later starts. But when he gets home, I'm asleep, and it's just mad. So we find time in the middle of the day to say hello to each other, etc.
Yeah.
But because of that, we don't ever cook meals together. So it's so funny, but I've got like a single person's diet. It's so funny.
Yeah.
We also eat differently. So I'm a vegan and he's not. So he's got a completely different diet. It's so different, and obviously like very sort of health focused and stuff, with still sort of considering like nice foods and whatever. He's not rigid, but at the same time I'm also different as well. I have my way of doing things, so yeah, we just get on with it really. It's worked quite well. um
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say you're living with your family, because we spent a couple of years before we moved in here together. We, into our home. We had a couple of years at my parents', and so that literally just became like everyone was always like doing their own thing in the kitchen. I don't think there was ever any like specific breakfast, lunch, dinners. It was like, okay, who's in the kitchen now? Is it mom? Is it dad? Is it whoever? So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Do you like buy your own food as well then, or do you like go and shop together and then, or do you literally just go and do your own food shops?
We go together, and it's really funny because I always get a trolley, and he's like, oh, we don't need a trolley. I get a trolley, he'll get a basket, and he'll end up putting his basket on my trolley. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I've just arranged everything like perfectly, and he's just gone dump on top. I'm like, babe, what are you doing?
probably just like a man's way of thinking that
So
he's not going to
much.
need much.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we sometimes we'll go down the aisles together, but quite often, if especially if it's very quick, we don't spend ages shopping. It's like evening shops, but
Mm,
not really at these sort of peak times. It's very, like literally we'll be like 2 hours before Tesco's closes or something. We're just dash, dash,
yeah,
dash. So yeah, that's why we just kind of like get it
yeah.
done quickly.
That's
And
probably not a bad
um
idea though, is it? Because it's just we were going, me and my boyfriend, we were going like at the weekend, and it's so manic. And we've started to kind of run out of things, but could probably be okay. But I said like I'd rather go today, just
mm,
because over the weekend it's just crazy. There are just too many people, and yeah, so I get that.
yeah, that Sunday afternoon rush before closing where everyone just
Yeah,
wants to do it.
there's
We like
nothing
a
like
Yeah, exactly. We quite like a Saturday night though. Saturday
yeah,
night's always been my thing. I've always done a Saturday night. So even years before, when you're prepping or setting up for the week ahead for work or what have you, a Saturday night shop and then a Sunday morning prep, like a meal prep.
yeah.
I don't do that now because I do have the luxury of working from home.
Mhm.
But years ago, when I would go out or travel out to work, it would, yeah, just be easier to just do stuff
Yeah,
in
Sunday
bulk.
would be my prep day as well because I
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
teacher before, so I'd use
Oh,
Sunday to do a few days worth ready for like the week because there was just no time.
yeah. Oh, that's interesting, teacher. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Do you still do a bit of that here and there?
A little bit here and there, but obviously the ideal now that my coaching's growing, which is obviously amazing. I want to be doing that full time. But yeah, I've been teaching, yeah, for a few years. So
Nice. Excellent. What was your subject?
um I'm actually a Welsh speaker. So I
Oh,
went to
wow.
Cardiff and I got my first job is I did like primary school teaching, but in Welsh. So that was my first job. And then COVID hit and I needed a job because that was only like for a year. And I ended
Mm,
up coming a little bit closer towards my mum and I found a job in a high school teaching Welsh, which was just completely different, because it was teaching the subject,
as a
uh,
language.
yeah, as a language to a range of different ages and kids compared to obviously when you're in primary school, it's just that one class, isn't it? And you're teaching like a variation of subjects. So it was the complete flip. Um, and since then I've been doing supply, which is swings and roundabouts really. Obviously it's hard because you're not preparing the work. So you don't really know what to expect when you go in the morning. But at the same time, it's less planning, more time to do stuff for me, work on my business, etc. So yeah, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, exactly. You do feel like we are literally constantly working. Like I don't think it's obviously a huge passion, but I don't think it's like oh, you work from home, you do a couple of hours and you switch off. Like
Just doesn't stop,
as
does it?
business owners, it just does not happen,
No, it
especially
doesn't.
when you are looking to grow it and serve people at the same time. You
Yeah.
literally do everything. So for those of you listening, coaching for us is not just the act of coaching you guys is just so much more to do with it, you know, everything from marketing to accounts to, well, I don't even know where to start, but and even the podcast, you know, but I know that this podcast as well, and just allows us to reach more people. Jodie, I wanted us to start working through a couple of the questions that have been sent in. So if we do this, I'll ask you a question. Well, one of the questions that I've got on my list, and perhaps maybe you could ask one of the ones that you've got, and then we can kind of like discuss a little bit as well. Okay. All right. So because we touched on this last night, but what are the limitations of things like Slimming World? What are they? Hang on, let me start again. What are the limitations of programs like Swimming World in promoting long-term health and education?
Oh, I don't even know where to start with that. For me, it just feels like a quick fix. You know, you're limiting yourself of those foods that we crave, that we need in our diets to be fulfilled and happy. So when we know we're getting rid of chocolate and seeing yogurt as like a healthy side, and I don't know, I just feel like it's very much a quick fix. Like someone will say, like, oh, I've lost 5 pounds in a week, and it's just that lack of knowledge as well, because that person isn't going to understand that that is not fat loss. You know, it's probably a lot to do with other things, water weight, etc. And yeah, I've spoken to so many people. In fact, most of my clients that I have currently have done Slimming World at some point in the past, and it's really ruined that relationship between, like, you know, with food. And also with the scales. That's like a massive thing that comes up because of the whole weighing once a week, not knowing about fluctuations, etc. You know, and it, like I mentioned last night on the live, I was a member of Slimming World only for a few weeks to a month or so, because I just felt it was really patronizing. If you didn't do what they deemed as well that week, you just ended up feeling like crap, basically, you know. But one of my clients checked in with me this morning, and she said that she's still to this day struggling, and she's only just started with me, but she said she's struggling to remove herself from getting fixated on that number on the scales. But she said to me this morning, like, it's already getting better after all this time, because her measurements have changed and the scales haven't changed at all. So I just think that's like a massive win in itself, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I think that's really important. And so we do our check-ins as well, with, you know, with the Girl Boss clients. We do them like Thursday, Friday, just towards the end of the week as well. And this morning I just put a message out as well, just to say, look, if the scales have not changed, that's not the only thing that we look at. It's a great piece of data to have that we can look at and we can see over time, but it's not the thing that we need to rely on. I think equally, well, massively important are body, you know, there's so many ways of looking at progress and looking to see if someone's changing. I'm a big fan of like body tape measurements. I think that's really quite cool. And you know, it's not that we just check hips and waist and bust, like we do arms and thighs as well. So there's, and I also feel like calves as well. And again, I don't know if this is like heavily backed by any specific research, but especially if someone's having a problem with like water retention and stuff, we might even see the calves are filling out a little bit more, because that could be a place where people might hold a bit more. And I think it might even, because it's somewhere that people don't necessarily think about their calves as being like this is a pain point, they might look at their waist, and then their waist, they might be having some more water retention. Their waist is bigger 1 week. You know, again, just looking at everything overall, it's just so much better. And there's always other wins. And, you know, if you zoom out and you have a look at the weeks or the months overall, I think that's just going to give you so much more perspective on where your progress has been. And I've had a client last year whose weight was really stuck for a long time, and it was always just shifting. She's like, I'm not losing any weight, I'm not losing any weight. But we looked at pictures, and her pictures are mind-blowing. Like the amount of progress that girl has made is just incredible. So it's on my Instagram page. It's actually in one of my little highlight, or maybe even my pin post. But I always get lots of comments about, wow, it's not even about scale weight, because the weight, there's not a huge amount of change there. But if you have a look at her physique, it's hugely different. So even again, like if we take all the other sort of metrics out, thinking about how clothes feel, even pictures as well, they're so important. And she would always say to me, oh, I can't see any changes, my pictures look the same, I feel bloated. And then you just zoom out and you go, well, let's have a look at where you were, because look at where you are now. And that's why I think it's so important for us to look at that progress from the beginning. It's so important to get those starting metrics, those pictures at the beginning, even if you feel unconfident. I don't know if you've experienced it, but you get women, they'll come on board and they're not happy about doing that first progress pic. And it's like, well, we need something to work towards comparatively, without, yeah.
I would say it'll be like a great, thing to look back on and see, it's not going to feel great now taking the pictures, because I know that I myself felt like that. But then you take the after ones and, it goes on, and then it gets to the point where you look back and you think, whoa. And if you hadn't have taken that first picture, you'd have nothing to compare you now to like the old you. So yeah, pictures are a great indicator. And I like that you said about seeing the scales as like just like a metric. Like, I think it's really important to see it as a tool, just something that we can use to track progress, because obviously, like you say, there can be no changes in weight, but it doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that the client isn't losing fat, because like you said, pictures and measurements, and even like, by the way, like clothes fit and things like that, isn't it? Like they can really just be a good indicator of progress.
Yeah, definitely. And we touched on this last night, that we've both been on our own journeys, so we know what
Yeah.
it feels like on the other
We
side. Again, like for myself as a fitness professional, I've still been bigger and then smaller and then bigger, and it's we all go through changes constantly. And I think that's also really important, that we're able to appreciate a journey that our clients are going through as well.
Yeah.
So, got any questions for me?
Yes, actually.
Hmm.
Slightly different topic. Tell me if you want me to find another one, but it's just kind of on my mind at the minute. What advice would you give to someone who has maybe started a deficit and they've got like their new calories and they've been like losing fat constantly on those calories, and then it kind of plateaus a little bit. So take the calories down. What advice would you give, to that client then if there was no change still? Would you lower them again, or would you kind of look at exercise and things like that? It's just,
So I think there's so many different ways, because you could have two different people on that exact same sticking point, and
yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to be the same. But let's just say, hypothetically, for some reason, maybe they're not really training very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not to say that we have to train ourselves and exercise to the point that we are massively, like exhausted mentally, and I call it bucket sick fitness, and I'm not a fan of that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's also the thing where people start getting scared of personal training, because they think that it's something where they have to like force themselves to do all these crazy exercises. And it would be really interesting to actually look at what their exercise type is. Could they also be unknowingly not in a deficit? So start looking at things like licks and snacks and pics. Are they telling you that they're in a deficit? Nothing is changing, because obviously as you start going more into that deficit, yes, things might not move along as they were in the beginning, because yes, we do know things get harder, but looking at things like the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so what we call our NEAT, naturally, as you start to reduce calories without even knowing, your body will fidget less, right? You'll fidget less. So imagine how hyper you feel after you've had well, maybe not a meal, so it depends of how carb heavy it is, because sometimes I want to fall asleep. But if you know you've been in a surplus, your training is so much better. You're able to like push more. You're able to, you know, and it might even be worth having a diet break and actually just completely coming away from a deficit. And I know that that's hard for someone to think. They go, well, I'm not losing weight, so why are you increasing my calories? We could do literally like a planned week of going, let's just increase them to maintenance
calories. Yeah.
You shouldn't ideally really be changing very much within that time. It's you know, but I think this is also where things people start thinking about metabolisms being broke, but maybe that might even start helping the output within the training sessions. So you've got a little bit more food back in and you're able to then start performing better. And also looking at the exercise, what are they doing? Are they doing HIIT? I mean, HIIT's great, but I'm not like a massive fan that every exercise needs to be that. I think it's nice to get that bit of interval training in there, some intensity. I think it's really good. It really helps you feel like, you know, you've worked loads. But if it's the only form of activity you're doing, you need to think, actually, are there any points of, you know, the week where my activity is actually quite low stress? Is anything focusing on some, you know, building some lean muscle tissue? Because of course that might be having an effect as well. And also like we come back to NEAT again, if you like, but the fidgeting stuff, but then also like things like the step count. Where's all that? You know, are they moving less? Oh, suddenly I've shut down. I'm not eating as much and the calories have dropped. And actually,
it's not
my
that same
motivation's
energy,
gone.
is there? Yeah, no, that's interesting. It's nice to get somebody else's take on it that, you know, does like a similar thing.
Yeah, of course. I definitely wouldn't say that it's all about suddenly reducing again. We could do that, but dieting is a mind fuck.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it really is. So, and by the way, we do swear on this, so feel free.
I
This is not
refrained
made for
myself
kids.
before, so now I feel like I'm
This,
being
this
given
is
a
not
green
made for
card.
kids. And actually, when I upload it, it will always ask me, is this made for kids? And I'm like, no, because actually, even if we weren't swearing, we shouldn't be talking about dieting or allowing people under the age of 18, children, to access this information. It's not right. They should be, if they are overweight and they are having issues with food, you know, have a look at how meals are structured within the family. Are there any other like issues with mum or dad, or, you know, around food? They no child needs to be put on a diet. That's for, I guess it's for pediatric dietitians and stuff to deal with. Again, it could come under eating disorders. But yeah, it's reserved for us. Unfortunately, it's just where we are right now, and we coach adults, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting that you said that because, you know, going back to what I was saying about Slim and Will kind of labeling foods as good and bad, and that's just diet culture for you, isn't it? But I really like what my sister's doing for her child at the minute, is that she doesn't want to have that naughty drawer that we grew up with, or do you know what I mean? Like, if she wants a yogurt, she can have a yogurt. If she wants a chocolate bar, she can have a chocolate bar. Like, she's very much trying to, you know, show her that there aren't good and bad foods, just obviously healthy, nutritious meals, but not labeling foods in that kind of way. And I just think, yeah, I just think it's admirable. It's really important because, you know, I don't think our parents do it on purpose. They grew up in a different time to us, you know, they just did. But I think that if you're surrounded by diet culture and food being spoken about in that way, that ultimately it is going to be ingrained in your head somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. And children change, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I've had loads of puppy fat for ages. I was very lean, but I definitely had like, I had a fuller face. I was kind of blessed in the fact that I had a big bum, although it wasn't popular back then. It was definitely bigger. But yeah, I think it was just different. And it's really interesting. So I've actually got an adult teenager now, nephew. I don't have my own children, but they're like my kids anyway. But yeah, one of them was very active and had gone through a period of putting on more weight, and we call it puppy fat or whatever. And I think my sister was like, oh, we need to get him on a diet. And I was like, no, you don't. I said,
No.
he's exercising and everything, just maybe even just talk about the importance of, like, having good nutrition for the sport, and not excluding anything. And this is the same thing that would obviously, you and I teach adults as well, that
Yeah.
there shouldn't be anything bad. And I tell you what's interesting. So you've taught children at school, right?
Yeah.
I've worked with kids as well. So before
Amazing.
I've always been in this world of fitness or sports as well. I used to coach gymnastics. And I always laugh and say, do you know what? Like, there's so many different things to do out there, like career wise. I'm going to coach gymnastics is now reserved, or I'll go back to it for retirement, because I love the sport and I just think it's nice to give back. Because obviously that's where I started out in my fitness journey, and also as a coach. Yeah, I think I probably coached for, like, I don't even know how many years, because it's always been on and off. I've always been involved in the sport, but there are certain parts of the sport when you start working with elite athletes, elite gymnasts, where dieting is really disgusting and abusive, and what the children are going through, and the way that they're spoken to about food groups and about how to eat and stuff is really, really dangerous. And will start affect things, especially for females, young female athletes, their menstruation cycle, their ability to actually put on any healthy fat to support them hormonally. Yeah, really not good. But I feel like we're coming away, aren't we? This literally, this could be like 2 hours
Yes.
long. But no, this is all good, and it's always nice to have question and answers, because we can kind of, again, work through things. But I think it's my turn to ask you a question. So
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, I feel like we've kind of done a low calorie one here. What do you think of meal plans?
Um, as in like a structured.
As in, like, right, someone signed up to any coach, and the coach has gone, right, here, this is the meal plan. That's the meal plan.
This
You wanted to buy a food meal plan. This is a 1,500 calorie meal plan. You buy the meal plan, and that's your program.
Personally, it's not for me. It's not my thing. I think it can be quite limiting, and maybe get a bit boring for clients. And I just feel like, I don't know, my whole thing is, I mean, I provide recipes for my clients, and they know like how to track them, etc. But it's to kind of give them an idea, give them recipes, give them ideas. I just feel that what I teach, similar to you, I imagine, is that we can have other foods and still live a life and go to social events and still hit our goals. And I've just been at that place where I had the meal plan. As I mentioned last night on the live, it was really restrictive. And I found myself at events like either jealous because I couldn't eat that food, because in my head I was like, oh no, I can't have that. Or, I just would maybe have it a little bit, and then just this massive guilt cloud would just kind of consume me. So personally, I'm not like a fan of it, because I feel like it's just a bit too structured. And I just like giving my clients that flexibility. What do you think? Are you
I'm with you. I'm 100% with
okay?
you. So meal plans, again, can be very restrictive, and they,
Yeah.
especially when they are like a prescriptive, they can, without, because it's heavily promoted within the industry. There is definitely a lot more now around sort of like microbiome and gut stuff and everything. And I don't know masses of detail on that stuff, but I've listened to some podcasts and stuff from people like doctors that are specialists in that area. We need food variety. Like, yes, there is something in, I do eat, and a lot of my clients might eat the same meal for 4 days. That's fine. You cannot do that for 4 weeks.
It's not
Every single
sustainable.
day. Something you have to change. Something's
Yeah.
got to change. And although a meal plan might give someone, or they might think it gives them like short-term results, they are going to have feelings of deprivation. It's going to encourage binge eating, and they're going to have long-term issues maintaining adherence. So adherence is the biggest factor to anything. So you could put someone in the smallest calorie, deficit. As long as they adhere to that deficit and they're flexible within that approach, it will serve them for a longer period of time. They can manage it. Meal plans, they don't promote any flexibilities, and they don't teach individuals how to eat and make balanced choices, right? They don't help create balance or even flexibility in terms of lifestyle. And I also wanted to add to this, it's really heavily promoted by unqualified people within the fitness industry, that they will just go, here's a meal plan. And I don't like that. And I don't know if that term is used quite strictly or if it's loosely used. However, I think, like you, meal plans can offer guidance. They can form a template. But I always say, and I've said this to clients in the past, meal plans you need to be coached into a meal plan, and you need to be coached out of a meal plan. So yes, we can make this happen, and I can know what you eat, and I can help create structure, and you can stick to something, but there needs to be a form of coaching within it. It's not here's a piece of paper and goodbye, right?
No, exactly. I've I've been that client in the past, and I just feel that when something like that comes to an end, then what? You're just like left on your own, and it's like when you go back to your normal eating, what what you used to have, like for me, that meal plan that I was on, it wasn't sustainable. So when I went back to eating the food that I'd missed, that I craved, that I hadn't had, the weight just went back on. And so it was just this cycle of like, oh, I need to eat this to get this way. And like I said, at the time, I had no knowledge of calorie deficits and all that kind of thing. So I believed that the only way to to lose the fat was to restrict myself in that way, because that's what I was being told. So, I love that you've said that, because it's so important to coach our clients within the program, but then steps moving forward. That's the whole thing, isn't it? To coach them and help them achieve their goals, but then show them that they can continue to, use what we've taught them in their lives after, because otherwise, it's we're doing it short term and we're not helping long term, are we? So no, I like that you've said that. I completely agree.
Yeah. No, brilliant. I love how we're on the same page here. It's really good.
Yeah,
It's
no,
nice to have different opinions. But I think it's really nice. And yeah, I think when we connected last night, this is again, like, or earlier this week as well, I think this is what sort of, made me think, yeah, we are on the same wavelength. And yeah, it's great. So do you have a question for me?
Well, obviously I've spoken a little bit about Slimming World, and you said that last night, for anyone listening, that you hadn't really done those fad diets before. So I was just wondering, whether you could share, I don't know whether you could share something along that wavelength that you've experienced. Maybe not fad diets, but have you done anything that was I don't know that you've learned something from, like restrictive eating or anything like that, or
Oh,
no?
I
Well,
know I've been really lucky.
no, that's mad.
It's really
That's good
strange,
though.
but I've been really
That's really
lucky.
nice to hear.
And I tell you what, I will touch on this because growing up, uh, mum and dad, I mean, so obviously I'm a vegan now, but I grew up eating everything, like all
Yeah.
different animal products. Like it was just a
Mm.
thing. And like I'm one of four, basically, sibling wise, a big family. And we
Yeah.
spent time actually living with my grandparents when I was quite young as well. So parents had moved in, and they'd done that back then. And
Yeah.
I remember they would go shopping, and they'd fill up the trolley. The trolley would be filled up for the week, and we would have bags of crisps, packets of penguins, chocolates, drinks. There was all manner of food, like junky food, we can call it that, okay, but
Yeah.
junk food, right? Loads of it. And McDonald's was on the menu as well. We could go and eat McDonald's. I was very physically active young, so that was, I guess, maybe in some ways that was helpful, that I had all those extra calories to help sustain me. We did have a lot of home cooked meals.
Yeah.
Bread wasn't something that wasn't allowed. Like, we'd have everything unlimited, it would be fine. There was never any gray area around that. But I tell you what, I did see my gran, she used to do slim fast. She would do slim fast shakes and slim fast bars. And I just thought it was weird and just like disgusting, like ill. I don't want to do that. And I never in my head thought, oh, I'd love to do slim fast when I get older. Or is that what we do? Is that how to do things? I never thought that. But it was interesting that I saw her do that. And I just thought, I looked at it negatively, like, gosh, why would I want to give up the food that I love, And I remember, maybe from a point of my parents like trying to save the weekly shop, all the crisp bags and stuff would always be hidden somewhere, because they knew that me and my siblings would just raid the cupboards and eat everything. So they try and like stash them somewhere, and it would just never work. It would be like day two of they've done a weekly shop on a Saturday afternoon, and by Sunday everything's gone. So yeah, I guess I was lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
And then I think as I got older, I think it was more that, because I never experienced having issues with weight or surrounding weight growing up, that when I went to university and in my final year, I started putting on lots of weight. And I guess is where you could say the stress eating came in. And I had a really horrible relationship that had come out of, and uni came in, and it was all just everything all at once. And I, student loan and stuff, and everything was convenience. And I didn't realize how bad this was, because I wasn't eating enough at home, because I wasn't having enough home cooked meals. I was ordering pizzas all the time. I'd go and get chips every day. I'd go and get seconds on chips as well. So, when you go out to get chips, I'd
Yeah.
just go again. And I was abusing caffeine as well. I'd probably say that I've abused caffeine in the past. So it did all these things, and I did put on weight. And then it was like, crap, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
All like train. And then I knew a little bit about calories, macros and stuff, little bit around it. But again, I didn't really understand how to do it. And then I reached out to another coach, actually, who's a really good friend of mine. And she coached me for a bit. And then she actually coached me into bikini bodybuilding competitions. And yes, so I think I may have mentioned, yeah, you get really low calories right at the end. But it was really, really good. So the bikini comps, right towards the end, I would say that I was in more of a deficit. Actually, I would say coming out of that deficit, away from competing, is where the floodgates opened. And again, more calories came in. Yeah, so I don't know, it's weird, but now I look back and go, there was some drama there. There was something going on. And again, I don't know if I could label it to say that But I think everyone always thinks, what it's taught me actually is everyone always thinks about the goal of weight loss and achieving the weight loss, but it's the maintenance that's always been really, really hard. So every time I like, get to this goal and I just forget about it and I carry on and I mindlessly eat whatever, it's not to say that I can't do that, but I would probably maybe even overeat. And maybe you could call it like post-comp binging, because that's also the culture as well, that after you've competed, binge, have everything.
That's like food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have everything. And, I was really good in a sense that during the weight loss phase, I was great at being coached into it. And, I still had like chocolate, pizza, cookies as part of my plan. It was fine. Like it was all flexible dieting and stuff, like with focus on calories, macros. But I think it was because they obviously get very reduced at some point. Again, not massively reduced, not like anywhere near 1,000. We're probably talking about 1,400 at most. Which again, some people might go, oh my God, that's like loads. But actually at the time for the output, it was reducing a lot. There was a big output, a big exercise output, like cardio every day as well, and training 6 days a week, in the gym probably 7 days, posing and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's interesting. That's kind of like, as we've talked, it's brought back some memories and it's kind of re-triggered that for me. And it's something that I really heavily talk to my ladies about. And it's like, I feel like they get it as well. It's not just a destination, and it's become a thing now, reverse dieting. Have you heard of that term?
Yeah, I'm actually coaching one of my clients at the minute because I strongly believe that the reason that she's come to me with a set amount of calories and she's not losing any weight. She's been trying, and I feel really strongly that her body has gotten so used to those calories that it's tricked her body into thinking that that's her maintenance. So we're doing a slow reverse diet at the minute to get the calories back up.
Yeah.
And I think for her that's kind of a scary prospect, but she's trusting the process because I've explained to her that if we were to drop them lower and lower, it's just not sustainable. She won't be fueling herself properly, etc. But have you touched on reverse dieting to your listeners before? Obviously this is my
We
first.
haven't done a full topic with it, but I've definitely had it where girls have left the program and they've sort of come up with other reasons to say maybe it's money that they need to stop, or they feel like they can go alone. I do try and sort of say to them, well, actually it's the maintenance is really important. I say this, I have actually touched on maintenance. Actually, I have done that already, the maintenance phase, and maybe a little bit about reverse dieting. We are like, this might be episode number 47, so we're going back. But I think potentially, yeah. But it's so important because then they come back. People come back, and I've had it a couple of times.
I just get worried, like I wouldn't want I wouldn't want the girls, the ladies that I wouldn't want them to achieve their fat loss goals and then kind of do what I did and be like, okay, that's great, thank you, bye. And like what you've just said, like it is about being knowledgeable and coached in that reverse to get them back up to maintenance, because like you've said, that I don't think people realize that maintenance that's hard to begin with, isn't it? You really need help with that to begin with. I feel like I did.
Then 100%, it's that psychological thing, but also people get to the goal, and let's say, for example, they are at 1,400 calories, they get to that goal, and then all of a sudden they're shooting up and they're eating 2,500, 3,000 calories a day. You're going to put on weight.
Going to go back on, exactly.
You're going to go back on, and it won't happen immediately. Like, yes, it will eventually, and then you'll go, oh my God, like what's happened? And it's not to say that after you've hit a goal and you've achieved a leaner physique that putting on weight is bad. No, it's not. it's putting it in up on in a way that's a little bit more sustainable. Now in the fitness industry, I don't know if you've seen it, but we do this sort of like bulking and cutting phases.
Yeah.
Fitness people do it
Yeah.
quite a bit. So I'm actually in a bit of a cutting phase at the moment because I am doing a couple of photo shoots and stuff. But after that, I'll be taking myself through a reverse diet too. And so even when it comes to bulking, it's that term for it's starting to change, but for most people, it used to be, okay, I've cut, I've shred, I've leaned. They bulk, but they bulk on they go straight up. They don't reverse diet. They just shoot straight up and they just start putting on, I'm sorry to say this, they start putting on fat, not muscle. They start putting on fat. And it's fine to put on fat to increase your calories gradually,
Yeah,
sustainably.
but not like that much at once, do you? You want to do it gradually,
Yeah, yeah,
like a bit at a time to then find out like where your where your maintenance calories are,
yeah.
but it's funny that you've said that because I'm kind of in a similar place myself, actually. Bear with me 1 second. Yeah. So yeah, it's funny that you say that, really, about that you're cut in and then revert, that you'll be reversing after, because I'm in the same kind of place. I haven't got any photo shoots or anything like that coming up. I just want to feel a little bit better in myself, really. But it's kind of like, even me as a coach, it's kind of like knowing when to kind of stop the fat loss phase and then kind of get the calories back up, because it's great achieving these goals and things, but I'm missing I'm missing food a little bit as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, we get the same, don't we? So yeah.
No, really important. I definitely agree with you there. So, and I think also, even as coaches, we realize the importance of having coaches as well to help us.
Yeah.
I did actually consider having a coach during this period. However, I didn't. And again, you could say that because I've got a lot of the education already, we do this.
Yeah.
And even with the education, I would have got a coach, I think, just for the accountability. But I'm very lucky. My partner's also a PT.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's able to hold me accountable in that sense. And I also have, like, you could say, a community of others that we kind of support each other. There's actually a group of us, personal trainers, fitness people, nutritionists, whatever you want to call us, but people in this health fitness space. That we are doing this photo shoot in April. I don't know if I've told anyone or really announced it. I think I might have done, but we're doing that and we're holding each other accountable in that sense. So I think that's massively helped. And so I think really, like, community is a big part of any phase, whether it's a growth phase, maintenance, or weight loss or fat loss or toning, whatever you want to do. I think there's some great value in there, in having accountability.
Yeah, it's that,
So
like,
yeah,
support network, isn't it? If we give our clients their community within our coaching, I think that, yeah, it's important that we have the same thing. Definitely.
yeah, 100%. Jodie, we're going to wrap up now, but I just wanted to say thank you for joining me on this podcast. I don't think that this is the end here. I think that this is something
No.
we're going to revisit, and we're going to get Jodie back on again. So that would be really, really cool. For those of you that have been listening, this has been the Girl Boss Method. I've been Ritu Bra, and we've had Jodie Ann on today, and we'll see you here next time.